Welcome everyone this evening. My name is Shule and I'll be your host tonight for the Synchronize concert series panel session. We have with us an incredible group of people who are going to share with you their stories about how it is they came into the projects that they're involved in and just what that experience has been for them, and perhaps provide you some information of how you could get involved as well. So we're going to begin with Mark Kavanagh. Mark, if you'd like to introduce yourself and just share a little bit about what Oasis Entertainment is, and a little bit about overall what the Synchronize concert series is all about.
Thank you very much. So my name's Mark Kavanagh. I'm the president of Oasis Entertainment, a nonprofit record label and a production company. So our goal is to raise awareness and funding for great humanitarian causes and the communities that they serve. We do that in several ways. Through musicians, through television like we're shooting tonight, concerts, etc., to not only raise awareness for causes that are usually flying under the radar of mainstream media, but to add some financial support for them as well. Sometimes, an initial shot in the arm, and then followed up with some this buzzword sustainability has been in the music industry, the entertainment industry, for a long time now. It's called royalties. And so applying that model to the nonprofit world is what we do. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for putting all of this together for all of us to be here tonight and throughout the next 3 days here at Star Bar in Park City, Utah. Sundance, we're all having a great time out here, all kinds of good energy and good happenings creatively and philanthropically. And we're going to share with you a few more of our panelists. Would you like to introduce yourself and share what it is you're up to in the world?
My name is Rosemary Trent, and I'm the executive director of a small nonprofit, Pueblo a Pueblo. We're based in Washington, D.C., and we work with an indigenous Mayan community in the Lake Atitlan region of Guatemala. And in particular, our community was destroyed during Hurricane Stan, mudslides that came and devastated a large portion of the community. So my organization is working to rebuild services in the community, in particular health services and a hospital. We're building a new hospital for the people, as well as working in other health and education programs. So that's what brings me here, and I've been partnering with Oasis for a while now. And so we're collaborating on this event together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Great. Yes.
Hi, my name is Peter Wilson. A few months ago, Mark asked me to be on the board of Oasis, and I gladly said yes, so thank you, Mark. My day job is to work at Google, so I sort of work in the intersection of the internet and the arts and education and charity, and sort of how I can pull those together. So that I do various sort of projects, but this is the most important one right now.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Natalie Kalustian, and I'm the producer of the film The Road to Fallujah, which is having its premiere here in Park City this week. And this is Mark, our director. And the film is a look at the Iraq War from the perspective of the Iraqi people. And we are hoping, and starting here, to start a dialogue between the American people and the Iraqi people, and to start a dialogue of peace, and to use the film for that means. So I'll let Mark tell you more.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Manning. I'm the director of The Road to Fallujah and co-producer with Natalie. As she said, we've been looking at the war from the perspective of the Iraqi people. We went and lived with them and filmed what the war is like from their perspective. And now we're starting a new media company called globalaccessmedia.org, and its purpose is to connect humanity through media. And we're using all forms of technology, from high-definition cameras to sending cameras out into places where media can't get into and letting the people tell their own stories. And our first project is called the Iraq Peace and Reconciliation Tour. And we're taking the Road to Fallujah on a tour of the United States. And after each screening, we're going to let the Iraqi people tell their stories live through video conferencing technology, and introduce the American people to the Iraqi people, let them talk to each other where they can see and hear each other, and begin a dialogue for peace.
Wow. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Hi there. My name is Slava Rubin. I'm the founder and chief of strategy and marketing for Indiegogo. It's an online marketplace for filmmakers and fans to connect to make more films happen. So filmmakers are actually getting tools for fundraising, promotion, and audience building, while the fans are getting to connect directly to the filmmakers, the films, or the causes they believe in. So we actually launched last year at Sundance, and since then there's over 1,100 projects, many of them documentary, but other tens of thousands of filmmakers, and people have raised tens of thousands of dollars for their films. We're actually happy that after 1 year of being open, 2 films that actually used Indiegogo made it into Sundance, both documentaries that are about very relevant causes, one about privacy called We Live in Public, and the other about the environment called Dirt.
Wow. Wonderful. Thank you and congratulations. That's great. So I'm curious, you can just pass that microphone back down, or? All right. I'm curious to know, as individuals, how you've come to the place that you have. You know, I mean, were you always doing this? Was this something that mom and dad did and so you're doing it? Or what kind of jobs were you doing before? And maybe just give a little explanation of how you've become inspired or impassioned to participate in the specific ways that you have. You all have very different tales and stories and interests. So I'm curious to know how that came to be for you.
I had always done music since about age 14, played in bands and started recording music. Got my first 4-track recorder when I was 14 and had an 8-track by about 16 and started charging money shortly thereafter. Haven't had a real job since. And just kept building up and run several successful recording studios and remote recording studios. Got into television, but it wasn't until a personal, profound experience that had me want to use my skills and passions towards being in service to humanity. So and that's where I am right now. So glad to be here.
Do you mind sharing what that inspired moment was?
Wow, that's a long story.
A soundbite of sort, or was there a moment when you knew you were up to something else, this sort of thing?
Wow, on the spot. So it was actually through the death of my father and actually my own death experience. On the way to the hospital, felt my heart stop beating and showed up dead on arrival, Reading Mercy Hospital, and it was a profound experience. I'll spare the details for the 2-hour feature film.
Yes, wonderful. Sounds like an incredible perspective shift, though, and how very incredible. And so since then, has it been quite natural for you to just continue on with this path, or are you sometimes questioning what it is you're up to? Does that happen?
I haven't had a day off since February 28th, 2006 at 4:11 a.m., so I would say I'm not going to stop, likely.
Okay. Beautiful, wonderful. That's great, thank you. Thank you. And yes, just curious to know how you came to where you are in.
For me, it actually did begin with my parents. I mean, it was always instilled in my family that, the need to give back. And we grew up, we always were very involved in the community and taking meals to elderly people, homebound medications. My mother was a nurse. She always helped out people who didn't have access to go to the doctor or whatever, and we just helped on a community level. And it really taught us something, I think. And then my first professional experience after university, I worked with Central American refugees, and that's how I met my husband, and we had this thing in common to give back and really do something good, other than thinking of just what we wanted out of a job or what we wanted to gain in life, but what can we do for others? And we've continued to live in that vein. We've spent a number of years, most of our professional lives overseas, working in developing countries on community development, grassroots efforts to improve the lives of impoverished people and people who really do need assistance and who do need, the outside looking in. Helping them to gain capacity to improve their lives. And that's what led me to Pueblo a Pueblo. When I came back to the U.S., I knew I didn't want to just go work in a government office or sit in some corporation. I really needed to work for something, an organization that did some good and really had a focus to improve people's lives. And that's how I found my way.
Beautiful, very inspiring. Very inspiring, thank you.
So I was fortunate enough to work in the software industry in the 90s and the internet in this decade. more by luck than judgment. And within that community, there's a pretty good tradition of giving back. But I found myself in Vietnam in '99 in a village, and this village badly needed a school. And what had happened is a couple of kids had died on the way to school because their boat had turned over. So I was kind of outraged about this because I thought, where I lived, the kids got on a yellow bus and they go to school. And so I went to talk to someone in the government and said, how come you don't have schools? And she looked at me and said, well, how come you're not building a school here? So I thought, this might be kind of fun. I should go build a school. And it turned out, this is my favorite detail of this, you can build a school in Vietnam cheaper than you can put cabinets in a kitchen. And I know this because I did both things at about the same time. So I got involved in that. And then, so I have sort of two motivations. One is sort of the altruistic, I've made a little money, I should give some of it back. And the other, which is more driving, it's selfish. It's just kind of fun to do this. So in the last 6 months, I've been helping arts organizations in Seattle use the internet to reach audiences. And I've lobbied politicians to get them to spend more money on education. I'm helping set up a bunch of concerts here. And I've been back to Vietnam, and we put tarmac and internet in the school. And this stuff is just, I kind of love my job, but this stuff is cooler. Yeah. So that's my motivation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Beautiful.
I think I grew up with that idea in my family of being a part of a community, and I traveled a lot in college and went to some third world countries and felt that sense of being a global citizen, and I didn't quite know what to do with that. And I came back and I worked at a local newspaper in Santa Barbara, and I became a massage therapist, and I spent a lot of time one-on-one or in small communities. And I came across Mark doing a film about the American people called American Voices after 9/11. And he was interviewing people around America to get sort of the consciousness of the country as we were heading to war. And it really spoke to me, and we started working together. And it's been a really great creative outlet for me and a way to feel a part of the larger world community and to really be able to see the war, see this amazing situation going on in the world from a perspective that most Americans didn't have access to. And so I've just felt completely blessed and amazed to be a part of that and honored to be able to try to share that through the film, really. So, yeah, thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I came roundabout kind of a crazy way because I kind of grew up a wilding and really was an outdoor person and ended up being a commercial oil field diver, working underwater basically as a construction worker and in deep depths of the ocean, and where you get that work mainly is in the oil field. So I was working in the oil field and saw my country heading to war when people were saying basically this is a war about oil. And the old adage hit me pretty strong: you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And sitting out there watching the turntable go around, it didn't have to think too hard about what side of the equation I might be on. And I was getting older, and you're not supposed to be a diver much past 40. So I started thinking, what can I do to be a part of something that I want to make a change? And I saw technology as a really fascinating way to get out there and do something. There's another adage: you can either pick up a gun or a camera. And I think what I found is a camera is a lot more effective.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So my two co-founders and I, before we started Indiegogo, we each worked with different artists, whether it was filmmakers, musicians, theater folks, on building audience and raising money. And we were using all the tools that are available to us, whether it was house parties or online. And there really wasn't the right place online to do it all together. There was the PayPals or the MySpaces or the Facebooks, but there wasn't one place where you could pitch your projects, try to raise money, and build your audiences all at the same time. So we were looking at some of the trends that were happening, and we were just researching what should we do to help democratize the process so that not one man or woman decides what movies or content gets to be put up into a theater. So the production costs were going down, distribution costs are going down, social networking, making it easier to connect to anybody. Niche content was becoming that much more normal. And actually, peer-to-peer funding or lending was becoming more normal as well, yet there was nothing available for a particular film community. So we decided to start it. And in parallel, when I was a kid, my dad died of cancer, myeloma, and the last few years I started a charity called Music Against Myeloma, which is very similar to this event. Lots of musicians all raising money for cancer. And I'm just like one of those filmmakers, which is I'm the client. I know what it would be like, so that we used all of that experience to build Indiegogo as, as valuable of a tool set as possible.
Wonderful. Thank you. Really, it starts to show itself that it's within all of us at some level, whether it was the family that we were raised with or whether it was the arts, the music, the technology that either from the very beginning showed as a path for a way to give back, or whether somewhere along the line something happened, some epiphany, some sort of life-transforming experience or thought process that allows someone to start over again or to start new into something else. So it's really for everyone, and at any point in life you can kind of jump on the bandwagon and participate in this way. We're certainly being called to it as a nation at this time, which is very exciting. So I'm curious to know along the way, because, besides maybe for you, Peter, for the most part, I guess money is a real issue, whereas you're on the other side of that, where you get to give the money, which is wonderful. And so I'm curious about donor fatigue, or what it is for you to be able to maintain your projects and to have that support continually flowing in. So maybe you can speak to that a little bit, just how that feels. Well, everyone can just share about how that is, and Peter can share from a slightly different perspective. Oh, okay. Well, perhaps Peter, for you, more the question is, how do you choose who and what to support?
Well, for me the situation is different, right? So I work with a lot of people who are fortunate enough to have some money, and so the thing I like is working out how to extract it from them. There's a thing we did at Google. We're famous for having free meals, right? So we put in a cash register for the week before the Thanksgiving, and we asked people to pay, and then that all went to a local charity, right? I can build a school, but I kind of want to build a school district, so why don't I get all my friends around and have a party and then hit them up on the way out? So, however much one has, it's really never enough. Right?
I see. Beautiful. That's well put. Thank you.
I think everybody has resources to give. So some people can give time, some people money, some people a smile. I've met in my path and since starting this some of the most amazing people that I never thought I would even meet, much less some of them do business with. And some people that started huge initiatives with nothing in the bank, and some of them with a lot in the bank. So I think it's really a matter of, what are you going to do with your time when you've got on this planet? You only have so much time on this planet, so why not make the most out of it? So I think everybody can do something, and it's been happening a lot more and more. I'll talk about a film. It just popped in my head since we're at Sundance, called The Shift, which is, it's got Al Gore in there talking about the shift that's happening within the environment, and then Desmond Tutu talking about the shift spiritually. And I've seen this in the nonprofit world. There's more organizations forming themselves now than ever before in history. And the mainstream media might not be telling us that, but it's happening. Trust me, it's happening. It's all over the world, and that's very inspiring, because everybody can do something. So.
Great. I'm curious, is it ever difficult to ask for money? Do you ever find a block there?
Yeah, I've had times in this where it's really difficult to ask, and that's why I started an organization where we could build, get a board of directors, and we've been building and building and building, getting people that can help me ask for money, because we're together, right? United we stand, divided we fall. So much more easier with 12, 13 people asking with you. So
wonderful. Community. Great. Okay.
I was just going to add that for me and my organization in particular, it's really the personal connection that allows us to do what we do and find the resources to do what we do, whether in terms of financial resources, And we use a lot of volunteer resources on the ground. We have a rotating force of doctors from around the world in the United States that come down and support the efforts in our hospital to make it run. But it really, and I've seen this in a lot of nonprofit organizations and projects around the world, that it really is the personal connection that makes people want to give back and get something out of it. That's where they feel they've done their good. That it's not just giving to a general cause or something, but if they've actually have some type of connection, it becomes that much more important to them to want to stay involved and be involved. And have value in their lives.
Oh, how wonderful! And perhaps I can ask you as well. There was a period there where the reputations of nonprofits and NGOs was sort of on towards where's the money actually being spent, where's the money actually going, and that kind of questioning. And I know in my experience that feeling is definitely shifting, but perhaps you could speak to that a little bit. Do you have to really be diligent about lining it all up so that everyone knows exactly?
I think good stewardship of the money is very important to us in particular. It's something we're very aware of and cautious of, and we need to be good stewards. And there's always going to be people who aren't and don't run a responsible organization in the for-profit world or the nonprofit world. But I think, obviously, we're trying to run good businesses just as anyone else. So,
right, wonderful.
Can I add something?
Sure, yeah. Let's jam it out.
That was one of the things that inspired a lot of the people when we were forming Oasis Entertainment. Was, hey, what if we took the entertainment industry model or in the music business industry model to make it for 89 cents and sell it for $16.99. So as opposed to like getting $1 and spending 85% of it on the cause and 15% on administrative costs. What if we could take that dollar and amplify it and spend 300%? So that's the model. And of course, it takes some building up to get to that place where it's effectively happening over and over again. But it's amazing what happens when you just get a few bright people in a room and brainstorm a bit. So anyway.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you.
I was going to let Mark answer this, but I just have one thing to say about it, which is the work we did in Iraq was very difficult in terms of being independent journalists. For Mark being there, there are only a few people that we know that were really unembedded and trying to get that information out, and so we had a lot of obstacles, and there were many times when we were like, maybe we should stop, and there was always something that pushed us forward. Something always came through, and there's something about that, I think, when you're doing the right thing and it's important in the world, that it comes through. Something comes through. Someone comes through. Some organization comes through. Something like this comes through today. So, yeah, you can finish.
Thank you.
Yeah, excuse me. It's an interesting question right now as we're just now starting this new nonprofit media company and wanting to build on the model that we discovered by doing this work in Iraq, that information is actually a key component of peace. And lack of information seems to be a key component of violence. And we discovered that from the ground up in Iraq, that usually where the violence was, people didn't have a clear understanding of what was going on, and there were lots of myths and misconceptions that were causing violence on all sides. So that is moving us forward to start this new nonprofit media company that we feel will be self-sustainable in about 5 years just from subscribers coming in and offering. Our idea is subscribers pay for the content, we produce the content, and by having a nonprofit, we're removing the barriers of distribution where we can just let the material out. Because a lot of times I've found too is that this kind of information has barriers. It doesn't have entertainment value, or it's not, bikini vacations in Las Vegas swimming pool.
It could be really quite depressing,
So I think we're going forward with a new business model for media and a new idea of accessing all sides of a situation to find peace in the information. And I think we believe that as long as you're moving forward with this idea that really makes sense in a world that really needs it, the funding will show up. And so far it has. I mean, we've come a long way without, with faith. It's been working.
Faith, as well as a whole pile of commitment and action steps and structure building, and which is beautiful because, as far as I've discovered, they really do go hand in hand. But that faith, that belief that we're up to something good and there's possibility here, sounds like that's working for you, keeping the flow happening. That's great.
So in these tough global times, what we're seeing is working is actually more engagement of the audience. So not just looking at it from a transactional perspective, but rather building it as a relationship. So a really good example everybody's very familiar with is the presidential campaigns. So both Obama and McCain used online techniques and social media to engage their audience. And not only were they getting more feedback and getting more voters, but they were getting actual dollar contributions. So to give you a stat that might boggle your mind, but every day for the last 3 months, over $1 million a day were contributed to the campaigns in sub $1,000 contributions. So these aren't huge, massive $1 million contributions, but rather everybody in the audience, was giving less than $1,000, and they added up to be over $1 million a day. Which that doesn't just turn into dollars. These people want to be engaged. They want to participate. They're on the social networks. They're blogging. They're twittering. They're talking, and then they're watching the will.i.am videos on Facebook or wherever, and they're becoming part of the conversation. So it's really more about creating a two-way discussion, using whatever techniques you can, as opposed to just a broadcast that hopefully then money will come back.
I feel like I'm hearing from all of you just the utter importance of relationship building, that it really is a one-on-one interaction, and that each and every person that you're touching is somehow inspired by their interest in your particular way of doing it, or that by sharing that information and education, we're able to inspire that action.
Well, just to jump in, it sounds, when you say one-on-one, it sounds very tedious and very painful.
Oh, I see.
But through social media,
Right.
what you can do is actually take advantage of one-to-many,
Right.
and then be able to engage through more one-to-one discussions afterwards. But you don't have to actually be in front of every person in the world or in your state or in your city or that cares about cancer. You can, like will.i.am did, create a video, or all the other folks, and then many can watch, and then it becomes a discussion afterwards.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great. That makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious to know if there's a moment for any of you that you might like to share with our audience that was really inspiring to you, something that really touched you, an experience, a specific experience somewhere along your travels or your journey.
Yeah, so I got the coolest Christmas present from my boss, and it was a gift certificate at this website called Kiva, Kiva.org. And what this is, it's a gift certificate, and you can use it to make a microloan. Right, so you go and you search through, and you just basically go shopping for projects. I picked somebody in Vietnam who needed equipment to farm pigs, and someone in Laos who wanted to set up a food shop. And so you invest in small amounts, lend money to predominantly women who run these small businesses, and then 6 months later, or a few months later, you get this email that says they've paid back your loan, and then you go back and you go shopping again for the next thing to support. And this is just an amazing use of building a relationship, of having a conversation with somebody, using the internet to reach people who I would never have reached otherwise. And it just kind of blew my mind that somebody had built this out into a real organization and a real venture. It was just incredible.
That's very exciting. That's great. Thank you.
I've got one. It actually involves Pueblo a Pueblo, which is why we started this 3D series here today. And it was down in Santiago Atitlan. When I was going down there to do my due diligence and meet the hospital committee and get a couple translators and go down and just talk to some people. And we were just going through the site, and one of the Lynn from the hospital committee was explaining, here's the area where the mudslide happened, and I reached down and picked up some garment, and I was like, oh, what's this? This looks neat, and realized it was probably a piece of clothing still attached to somebody in the mud, and so it seems like a sad moment, but it was very inspiring in that it's a very touching moment, but it was a moment that it just made me realize, like, here I was, and out of all the people in Seattle, say, I was one of the very few people that knew this existed. It didn't really make the news. And that really inspired me to want to tell the whole world about this community and what a beautiful community it was. And it's paradise. But in need of some help. So anyway, very inspiring moment.
Oh, Just sounds incredible, really. Another one of those moments where it's a real reality check. It's not something we see very often here in North America, is it? Just a body lying there. Yeah. Wow, great. So, yes, if we want to pass along, if there's a moment you want to share, an inspired moment, a moment with a child.
I don't know if this is such an inspiring. I've had many inspiring moments in my life. I have to say, I've lived all over the world. I've seen all sorts of everything imaginable. But just recently on a trip to Santiago Atitlan, I participated in our mother-infant program. We have a program that sponsors mothers who are pregnant, and we provide health care to them, all the prenatal visits and everything, and then care in the first 5 years of their child's life. And we provide monthly meetings, educational meetings, for these women who are very uneducated. They don't speak Spanish, they don't speak English, they live, very far out in the rural areas. And when I participated in this meeting, I was really shocked, amazed, and impressed that through this process of involvement and us bringing them together and teaching them, that they were able to participate in their learning. They weren't just standing by, listening, being told something or being taught. They actually were taking action and were able to stand up and speak and participate, and there were a couple husbands there participating, which doesn't sound like a big thing, but in a very traditional Mayan closed community, very reserved community, it was really an amazing thing that through grassroots effort, through capacity building, that people are able to change and they're able to take charge of their lives and learn and really grow from that. So that's been really impressive for me.
That's
to see
wonderful.
that.
Thank you for sharing that.
Well, you're going to pass. Want to call a friend? I was just sitting there thinking, listening to these great stories, and my moment, I think, came over a period of years, and then it just sunk in one day. But Natalie talked a little bit. I'd been making a film called American Voices, and after 9/11, as this country was moving into a war footing with Iraq, I went around the country and I interviewed hundreds and hundreds of Americans, from the logging camps in the Northwest to farms in Kansas to Ku Klux Klan facilities in North Carolina to Wall Street, and was asking Americans about how do you feel and why do you feel the way you feel mainly. It was really more about why we feel the way we feel. And then I had the chance to go do the same thing in the Middle East. And I went across on the streets of the Middle East and talked to people, and it just hit me one day that the only thing, I think, or the main thing, that is causing this conflict is a lack of information, a lack of a connection through information. And I was just thinking, if only we knew more about them, and if only they knew more about us, these myths and misconceptions that create this violence would blow away, and there'd only be a few individuals left that wouldn't have the power anymore. So that really inspired me to do this work.
Beautiful. How wonderful.
We were in private beta before we opened up to the public, and we already received a few emails from folks saying, oh, we heard what you're doing and we really want to participate, we need these tools. And right away, whether there was financial gain or not to be available, we knew that there was a community out there that was going to be happy. And that really kind of inspired us to keep on doing what we're doing.
That's great. That's great. Beautiful moments of inspiration that help us all take action in our lives. And that would, lead to the next question of how can those who are listening here today get involved? And maybe you want to speak specifically about the information they might need to get involved or the needs that you may have with your own personal projects. And then if anyone also had any information, because everyone's looking for what resonates. You might want to be helping with the animal shelters, or maybe it's children, or maybe it's healthcare, maybe it's technology or the creative arts. And there's just really nowhere that we're stopped when it comes to giving and the creative process in this. So maybe we can help open some doors for people and help them figure out how it is they can take action.
That's an easy one. One word: volunteer. There's so many organizations out there. It's worked for us. I lost count of the number of volunteers that had a part of just the 3-day concert series here. But there's a myriad of ways. But volunteerism is I think, the most direct thing. And it's something you don't have to wait to figure it out before you can do it. You can hop on Craigslist to find out organizations. You can go to sites like Idealist or, there's tons, Kiva. Love that organization. And just get in, start volunteering. If it's money you have, do that. Spend some money, donate. If it's time, get in there. 1 hour a week makes a huge difference. You got 10, even better, but just do something.
That's great.
I think, just to add to that, it's really important to find something that speaks to you, that you're going to feel committed to be involved in. If you're a runner, to be involved in something, with a running group or assisting athletes, or if, you're an artist, being involved with artistic groups, whatever it is, just, something that really is going to, reach to what's important to you and to help others. So.
Great.
Yeah, the thing I'd add is get a passport, go to that one place you've always wanted to go, get out of the 3-star hotel, meet the people who live there, talk to them, start a conversation. And that'll just open your eyes, whether you're living in the States and visiting somewhere else, or whether you're living somewhere else and visiting the States. And just meeting people in other countries, you get to learn that their aspirations are probably much like your aspirations, and their needs are different to yours, but you can help them, and they can probably help you. And just making that connection. I've seen so many people whose eyes are open and just realize the world is actually, it's both bigger and smaller than we think it is.
Great. Thank you.
So I thought of my moment that has to do with this. So a few days ago, we did a video conference into Iraq, and somebody asked, what can we do as Americans? And the answer was, just don't forget about Iraq. Just don't forget. And if all you do is say a prayer, that speaks to our hearts. So I guess my answer would be just to be engaged in whatever speaks to you. And just be really engaged, be informed, share information, and follow your heart. There's so many places to utilize our gifts. So.
Yeah, I think to be empowered is a wonderful feeling. And I think if you're not in service, if you're scared or if you're feeling overwhelmed, you've lost your sense of your own personal power. And by taking action, you get that back. And so I think not only is it a great gift to society, but you're giving yourself a great gift when you do something. And I highly recommend it. It's to empower yourself, to be of service is one of the best feelings in the world. And I think if anybody's sitting around and feeling overwhelmed or depressed, the action you take in service is one of the best gifts you could ever give yourself.
Beautiful. Beautifully put. Thank you, Mark.
Just building on being passionate about what you're doing, it's okay if you're not passionate about saving babies in Africa. Just find whatever it is that you care about and get involved. And that could be educate, donate, volunteer, whatever it is. The most important thing is to actually act, because if you stay static, it's very easy to stay static. But if you start moving, the momentum will build. So just do something.
How beautiful. And for those who perhaps don't have the means to be traveling or to be involved in a major way in that capacity, we happen to live in an incredibly diverse society. There are people right out on your very streets who would love a smile or a hug or perhaps a warm sweater or something to eat. So you don't need to wait. There's no holding back here. The action can happen immediately. And I think you've all proven that you're up to it, and I thank you very much for that. Is there anyone that would like to add anything or?
One big thing, make a donation. We're building a hospital down in Santiago Atitlan, and there's a cash box over there by the door, and we'd love for you to get involved with your Visa card or your check or your cash.
What's the URL on that?
Well, there's pueblo.org, oasisentertainment.org.
Okay. Or you can come right on down here to the Star Bar and join us for some incredible musical talent that we've got coming up. And we've just got a room full of beautiful people who would love to have you here.
Right on.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, not only for being here today to share what it is you're up to, but just for diligently doing what you do. You're a total inspiration to me, and I'm sure everyone felt the same. So thank you very much.